Video games can be expensive. The latest release costs £50 or more, and that's just the standard edition. Never mind the stupidly priced collector's editions that are also available, which frequently cost over £100. That needn't always be the case though. Go back just one console generation and you can find some absolute bargains. In this particular video, I'll be taking a look at 5 Xbox 360 games that I have managed to find for £1 or less. I've spent roughly 1 hour with each of them, and I'll be letting you know whether I feel they are worth a try or not, and whether I'm likely to continue playing them. For such a low price, you'd expect the games to be utter shite, wouldn't you? Well, that's not necessarily the case. In mid-2008, Capcom and Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare developer Grin released Bionic Commando Rearmed, a brand new 2D game based on the popular 80s series that started in the arcades and went on to be highly successful on the NES. A year later, the same team produced a fully 3D game based on the same license. You play as Nathan Rad Spencer, who was the main character in the old NES game, Super Joe, who was the main character in the arcade versions of Commando, and Bionic Commando is your CO. It would seem that at some point in the future, soldiers with bionic implants are declared too dangerous, and their implants are forcefully removed. Rad Spencer finds himself without his arm and on death row at the start of the game, but is pardoned because he is the only person able to take down the enemy. Initially, Bionic Commando seems really cool, if a little tricky to get the hang of. The swinging mechanic is reminiscent of the Spider-Man games before it, but instead of being able to reach out and grab thin air, you do actually need somewhere to grapple to, and you need to use your momentum to carefully traverse the stages. Things start off fairly easily, with solid ground not being too far away if you mess up. However, the further you proceed into the game, the more frustrating it gets. There are a ton of optional collectibles in the game, but they can be an absolute pain in the backside to retrieve. Someone made the decision to cover a lot of the rooftops and other areas with deadly radiation, which will send you to a game over screen within a few seconds. It is quite easy to accidentally stumble into this radiation whilst trying to get to one of the collectibles, and lose a ton of progress as a result. This very quickly becomes far too frustrating to bother with, and I stop trying to collect everything. Sometimes you will still fall afoul of the radiation while you're just trying to progress through the game. It's not a fun mechanic at all, and really harms the game in my opinion. Even though the game is fairly old, it is still not that much to look at. The colour scheme is drab, the levels repetitive in their design, and the character models are lacking in detail. Combine this with some really cheesily written dialogue, unlikable characters, and very overacted voice acting, and it all adds up to a decidedly B-tier experience. It seems that when it comes to this game, you either love it or you hate it. Unfortunately, after struggling with it for an hour and a half, I came away firmly on the second side of things. I highly doubt that I will be going back for more, but at least I'm only 75p out of pocket. Considering that this game has the lowest Metacritic score by far of all the games I'm looking at today, it is somewhat surprising that it is still possibly the one that I enjoyed the most. While it is set in the same universe as the classic Might and Magic RPG series, it bears very little resemblance to any of those games, and is in fact not really an RPG. It's more of a first-person action game with some very basic RPG mechanics. You can choose your character class from one of 4 at the start, and in hindsight I think I may have chosen the most boring one of the lot in the Archer. I may restart and try out the Wizard. You were the apprentice to a mighty magician sent out on your first proper mission to steal some mystical crystal from an ancient temple and then take it to the lord of some city or another. No sooner do you get there than the city becomes besieged by the forces of evil, including a massive Cyclops which you help to defeat with the help of a trebuchet on the battlements. The Lord decides to help you due to your assistance in defending the city, but during that night he is slain by demons and the crystal is stolen. That's about as far as I've managed to get. My next job is to set off across the rooftops and try and track down the thief. I do vaguely recall trying out the demo for this game many years ago and not being at all impressed with it. The graphics were bad and the demo was full of bugs. Playing the full game, however, I didn't think it looked too bad, definitely comparable to something like Oblivion from around the same time. Apparently Arcane Studios, who have since gone on to develop the incredibly popular Dishonored and Prey games, worked on the original PC version of the game, though they weren't responsible for the Xbox 360 port, which dumbed down the experience quite a bit. It still feels like an Arcane title in places though. The first few levels were a lot of fun, and I actually had to force myself to stop playing and move on to the next game on the pile. While I was doing battle with the same Black Knights over and over again, which doesn't change much in the rest of the game from what I've heard, the physics were quite fun because you could sneak up on people and kick them over ledges, out of windows or into spikes on the wall. You do earn experience points as you kill enemies, though there's less of a skill tree and more of a skill straight line with no choice in how your character progresses. The archer class, for example, gradually becomes more efficient with a bow, doing more damage and gaining the ability to zoom in or slow down time to line up the perfect headshot, that sort of thing. While the game is hardly going to win any awards for originality or amazing gameplay, I did still find it to be a lot of fun, and I will definitely be returning for some more. Whether I complete it or not is another matter, but I already feel like I've got my money's worth. After Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days was made part of the Games with Gold lineup for July, I decided to track down a copy of the first game because I don't like going into a series partway through. I had to look around a bit for this one because there weren't any copies in my local CEX when I went looking, and Game wanted too much money for it. Eventually I found it in cash converters for £1, so I thought, where could I go wrong? Unfortunately, Jeff Gersman was right to give this an average score all those years ago, as this is not a very good game at all. The game begins with Kane, the character you control for the duration of the single-player campaign, being broken out of prison by some shady individuals and a guy called Mr. Lynch. You are then told to retrieve something for these criminals, though at the start of the game it's not made clear what it is. Lynch is sent along to keep an eye on you and report back. The first mission then takes place in a bank vault, with you attempting to acquire the mystery object, which it turns out is not there or is incomplete. Lynch, who you left guarding the hostages in the bank, has suffered a psychotic break in the meantime and has started executing everyone, putting you in a really shitty situation with the cops. I could get over the annoying and unlikable main characters if the gameplay itself was at least solid, if not stellar. Unfortunately though, the whole experience just feels off. Aiming is floaty and imprecise, there is very little feedback from the game or the controller as you play, and the levels are just plain poor. I found myself going from intrigued to bored to incredibly annoyed very fast indeed, and by the time my hour with the game was up, I most definitely did not want to play any more of it ever again. I should probably have just skipped to the sequel, which I have heard is way better in every aspect. Maybe I'll still give it a try, it hasn't cost me anything after all. As for this game though, I'm afraid even £1 may be too much. I remember the demo of Lost Planet very clearly. It was not that long after the launch of the Xbox 360, and because there wasn't a lot of content available for it at that stage, I would download every demo and free trial that came along. I really enjoyed battling against the huge acrid bug creatures in the VS mech suit, and by the end of it I was looking forward to the full game. When I borrowed the game from a friend, however, I was very disappointed to discover that the mech combat wasn't nearly as prominent as I had been led to believe. A lot of the game is spent on foot, fighting against boring space pirate enemies. It wasn't that long before I discarded it in disgust. According to the save file on my 360, that was 7 years ago. I recently decided to give the series another try and found a copy of the limited edition steelbook copy of the game that comes with a bonus CD and art book inside for 99p from my local CEX branch. Coming back to the game, I initially struggled with the rather slow controls, but started to acclimatise after about half an hour. I still really loved the sci-fi premise behind the game and the atmosphere. After the colonists of the icy planet of EDN-3 accidentally stir up the hostile bug-like acrids, most of them are forced to retreat. Quite a few are left behind and are forced to become pirates. Eventually, the military do return with their VS mechs, ready to purge the hives from the planet. Of course, they also have to deal with the ex-colleagues that they abandoned as well. The first level was a lot of fun, doing battle with acrids both big and small, and eventually coming across one of the hives. Roughly half of this stage is spent in the VS with the other half on foot. You definitely feel a lot more vulnerable outside of the suit and need to avoid being crushed. If you are careful and make slow steady progress, then things aren't too tough though. Luckily there just happens to be a couple of abandoned suits right in the middle of the hive where the boss lives, perhaps left behind by the previous team that failed to kill it. The second stage sends you into snow pirate territory, takes place on foot and is rather less interesting, though I didn't hate it like I did the last time I tried to get into the game. Some of the checkpoints can be spread just a bit too far apart. After I took a tumble from a bridge, I then had to trudge all the way back, which took about 20 minutes. The game is definitely showing its age in places. The graphics are a lot more basic than titles that were produced later in the lifespan of the console. It doesn't look terrible though, and the voice acting is quite serviceable. I had a lot more fun with Lost Planet than I was expecting to, and would like to continue the campaign. The game also had 2 sequels, and while they are not quite as cheap as the first, you should still be able to find the entire trilogy for £6 or less. Worth checking out. Wet is a Tarantino-esque grindhouse action game where you play as assassin for hire Ruby Malone. It has a very distinctive look and feel to it. In fact, the entire game is all about style, with you racking up points and score multipliers for maintaining the longest, most stylish murder spree possible. You can flip, slide along the ground, wall run and swing from poles, all the while firing off twin pistols, a shotgun or carving people up with your sword. There's a definite influence from the likes of Kill Bill here. While I did have a lot of fun with the first few stages of the game, I did start to find it a little repetitive and possibly shallow after a while. Though there is a variety of abilities and weapons to unlock as you get further into the game, which may help add some variety. I'm also not that great at the game right now. I haven't quite perfected the bullet ballet that's required to send your score into the stratosphere just yet. While the standard story levels were quite enjoyable, it was the side challenges back at Ruby's home base that I enjoyed the most. Each new weapon has its own obstacle course for you to complete, with targets springing up everywhere for you to try and gun down before they disappear. So far, I've barely managed to scrape through with a bronze medal, so quite a bit of practice will be needed if I ever want to earn a gold. I have a feeling that's the key to truly enjoying this game, honing your ability and practicing over and over till you really get a feel for it. I'm not sure if I have the skill or the patience to do that, so I may have to settle with a quick romp through the campaign on easy mode. There is a fantastic soundtrack that plays throughout the game with a large range of tunes from well-known and not so well-known artists, and Eliza Dushku is a perfect fit for the voice of Ruby. Visually the game impresses too, with a very stylish look which is a little bit like Borderlands. Occasionally Ruby becomes enraged and the whole level turns black and red, which is very cool indeed. All in all, Wet is a very slickly produced action game which I do admire. I'm just not very good at this sort of game. I don't regret giving it a shot though. So there we have it. Out of those 5 games, I would definitely continue to play 3 of them, at least for a while longer. Most of these games also featured online modes originally, but sadly no one is playing them anymore, unless you can persuade a bunch of your mates to pick up a copy as well and team up with you. I guess that's the price you pay for coming to the party late though. I do feel that I've already got my money's worth out of these games though, and I'm not done with all of them yet. When you consider that I picked up all 5 of them for less than the price of a McDonald's meal, you have to admit it is a real bargain. I may make another one of these videos in the future because I already have a couple more games that have dropped to £1 or less since I picked them up originally. Games like The Bureau, XCOM Declassified, Child of Eden and Alone in the Dark. Would you be interested in seeing more videos like this? Let me know. In the meantime, take care.